part 2 of a video on applying right angles in our daily lives. So this video is just going to be working with a new problem on applying it to our daily lives, but this one's going to be focusing more on architecture and carpentry and roofing. So the problem that we're given is that the base in my isosceles triangle is 70 meters long. The altitude to the base is 75 meters long. Find the measure of a base angle to the nearest degree. So let's find what they give us. They give us first that the base of the isosceles triangle is 70 meters long. They also give us that the altitude to the base is 75 meters long. So now what we need to find is the measure of a base angle. So in order to do that, we're going to need this to refresh ourselves on these vocab and formulas. So here is showing a altitude. And an altitude is the line stretching from the vertex of a triangle down to the base, forming a right angle all the time. And also we're going to need to refresh ourselves on the ratios needed to form the inverse tangent, inverse sine, and inverse cosine. So I'll come back to these and when and how we're going to use these in our problem. So here's a little more of a zoomed in picture of what we're going to be using. So this is the triangle we're going to be focusing on. Notice it is an isosceles triangle. So these two sides are congruent, as well as these two angles are congruent. So we need to keep that in mind as we're solving this problem. So what we know first is that the base is 70 meters. So I'll put that down here at the base. And the altitude is 75 meters. So remember that I just said that the altitude goes from the vertex down to the base, forming a right angle. So again, they told us that it was 75 meters long. So now all we need to do is solve for either one of these base angles. And we only need to solve for one because they're both going to be congruent. So you can just pick one. I picked this side here. So I separated it in half, and I'll redraw these measurements here so it makes it easier to visualize. And this is the angle we're going to be solving for. So next, we're going to be using the inverse. We're going to be using the inverse because they give us the ratio and the numbers, but we need to find the missing angle. So in relative to the angle, this is the adjacent and the opposite. And now we know that we're going to need to use the ratio of the inverse tangent. So now we're going to write the inverse tangent of 75 over 35. You're going to plug that right into your calculator and you'll come out with exactly 65 degrees. So that wasn't too hard because each side, since they're congruent, is 65 degrees. Pretty simple. So now if you want to build a perfect roof that has perfect angles and will stand perfectly on top of your house, now you have it. All right.